the whole breakdown of my show.
All right, so we're going through a little.
Yeah.
Go
Go up a little bit this way?
Yeah,
Yeah, I think you want to move my bag here. Yeah.
Yeah, give me a bag.
Put my bag nice. I got my equipment for my radio there. That's right. Yeah, put it over there. I don't need that. It's like weightlifting.
You know what? We're going to do a little switching. I want to be on that side. Sorry, if you can be on this side because I need to reach to that phone like if somebody calls. Boxer Show. I'm your host, Hurricane Ike. Whatever we need to do for the New Year's. Happy New Year, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming to the Jacboxer Show.
Thank you, Ike.
Thank you for coming to the Jacboxer Show.
Nice to be here.
Thank you. Well, we're doing it again at the Jacboxer Show. It's 2009, people. Happy New Year at home. If you're watching, you can call in.
At 757-1538.
Okay. My guest today is
212.
I want to introduce my guest. My guest today is heavyweight contender Thor.
Nice to be here. Thank you.
And I also have boxing journalist Digas.
He's studio noise.
All right.
You always call me Dusty. Call me Dusty.
Dusty. That's my. I like him with Dusty.
Dusty, right.
And then my next special guest today is
Paula Gloria.
Sweetie Paula Gloria.
I have a show on every day farther down the rabbit hole where we talk about politics and spirituality. And when I met you in the editing, I thought it'd be really fun to learn about boxing because I like to learn things. And the show's about going deeper. That's why I call it farther down the rabbit hole.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we're going deep for 2009. He's going deep. Hey, I'm excited to have you here today. Last time I was with Keisha, 2008, we were talking about you. And all of a sudden, I got an email popping from Adam, good guy, doing a great job, you know. We want to come down and hang with you guys. And I'm very excited to have you. Tell me about that article, on Village Voice. You were on the front cover.
So, a friend of ours, Chloe Hilliard, who's at the Village Voice, came to us and said, we would like to do a holiday story on you. At first, it wasn't supposed to be a feature, but then she got a little bit into my background, understood more about my family history, such as my father being on the Board of Education, my mother being a master's degree holder from Villanova, and her editor became very interested in the contrast between an academic family and a fighting son. How did that happen? Right? So as she gave her an okay to spend a little more time with me, and as it developed, the contrast really drove the story. My, achievements academically were surpassed by my achievements in the ring, and it turned out to be a pretty good holiday story, uplifting, especially now that we have a recession coming. It seems that it's been a really good experience for me. I think I've gotten a lot of positive press out of it, and people responding well to it. Now, I think it's also motivating me more to train harder, to be able to live up to that front page in the Village Voice with only 2 fights. It's a really good experience.
Well, do people find it hard to associate the ring wars with academics? Because most of the time, a fighter has come from the streets like I did, and fight his way in school, fight his way out of school, never bother with books. And somebody tells him, hey, you go with your fists. Why don't you go out there and make some money? So, and this is basically what has been the norm for a fighter as opposed to an academic person like yourself, and with parents who are so well educated. So, are they shocked by the fact that you are educated? In fact, they're making a big issue about Tim Witherspoon's nephew, who also is a college graduate. So what has been your problem in trying to explain to them, well, this is my career?
It's not so much of a problem. You start seeing a paradigm shift as time goes on, as we enter into 2009, you start to see people becoming more and more fast, especially in this country. A strong academic background is necessary to do anything. You have to have the option to be able to fight. As in previous generations, where being good at one thing was enough, but now you have to multitask. You have to be good at the internet. You have to be able to have a high degree reading level to be able to understand your bills. You know, you have to right. You have to understand how to be a responsible consumer of the products and services you have.
Paula, how was your New Year's, girl?
My New Year's was wonderful, but I'm fascinated by this discussion. Do you feel your experience as a boxing journalist? Most boxers aren't that educated?
Well, unfortunately, when I interview fighters, with the exception of Oscar de la Hoya, who's Mexican Donald Trump, as far as I'm concerned, we speak to them and try to get a little bit, without being nosy, into their academic backgrounds. And most of them were fighting since they were 14 years of age, and the family and were immigrant workers, and they worked at factories and farms and peeled letters and the whole 9 yards, and they got into boxing just to survive the neighborhood, you know, and that's how they became, like Margarito himself, who started fighting pro at 15. 15, you're just, like a junior in high school, you know, and they never went to school, and they developed that one career, like you said, into successful, somewhat successful, you know, but that's all they've had, you know. So this is what I'm saying, that when you have college graduates, an Oscar Hammer, who has a taste of the education and still a full taste of the gloves, we say, hey, man, that's a man that's going to go for it. Yeah.
No, because a lot of college graduates can't get jobs. Jobs are becoming passé.
Absolutely.
And here's something I'd like to introduce to you, a concept. Do you know that most wealth doesn't come from labor? Most wealth comes from capital. And at the time of our Constitution, we didn't have that much machinery. So most of the wealth was from the labor. You'd labor on the land, you'd grow things. Unfortunately for the African Americans, it was their labor that brought great wealth through labor. However, as machines started to develop, what became important is who owns the machines. And a lot of people who go to college actually become limited in their thinking. So that today, with Walmart coming along and giving more menial jobs, someone like a boxer could be an independent contractor. He works for himself. And I think more of us, we won't have the kinds of talent that Thor has, but people can advertise their skills on the internet and go directly, like something that's easy for me to do, someone else, it would be difficult for them to do. So if we can make a connection, we can keep the economy going despite the corruption that's going on at the top. But it seems as though somebody young and talented who can box, he could be way ahead of the game, and then somebody who's graduated and has a big academic career can still be going pretty hungry if they're not clever.
Yeah, well, that's true. This is exactly what I'm saying, that he has a dual advantage as opposed to a singular advantage of one nerd who stays in college and just learns one career. He has a double career, and that's basically what is basically important especially in the boxing business. You take a basketball player, you take a football player, you take who else? A baseball player. Most of them are drafted out of colleges. You already have 2 and 3 years of education, sometimes college educations, especially basketball players drafted, unless you got a guy like Kobe Bryant and Kemet for the Celtics, I forget his name, Barnett, and guys like that who are drafted, and James, I forget his name, I can see his face, from the Cleveland Cavaliers, who are drafted out of high school. And they become instant millionaires. But when I look at them, I'm saying, my God, are they astute enough or educated enough to harness that money and make it into a trust fund for their afterlife? Because athletics is a very short life. You know it, I know it, we know it. that, I mean, one career-ending injury, you're finished in any sport. But do they have the education to be able to harness that money so that they can live a better life? You know, that's probably the tragedy that I see in Evander Holyfield. Super rich man. He's made over $200-400 million. He doesn't have an afterlife. He has to continue fighting. And
what about Mike Tyson?
Mike Tyson is another example. No career after boxing. What's happened to his money? You know, what happened to his education? Evidently, of course, he never went to school. You know, and according to scribes, he barely can cite his name. But what's happened to all the hundreds of millions he's made? See, that's what I'm saying. But here is a smart man who says, I'm going to go into that squared circle and go as far as my talent and my drive is going to be, but I'm going to parlay the purses I make and put them into trust funds or businesses. Plus, I got my education. Will say, well, when fighting is over, when do you retire as a fighter? Your 30s, your 35, you begin to say, hey, it's time for me to look for somewhere else. And he has the ability to look somewhere else. Most guys don't. That's the problem.
Well, you know, I want to point out a couple things that I've heard I'd like to comment on. First would be in regards to athletes having a good education, moving forward, making a whole life for themselves after. We touched on Mike Tyson. Mm-hmm. We touched on Evander Holyfield, and guys with exceptional talent. There's also been guys without such exceptional talent who have also made very good lives for themselves.
Exactly.
Joe Frazier, who will keep at exceptional talent level, you know, with a poor education, has made a decent life for himself after and raised a large family. George Foreman, similar, you know, and made a lot of money for himself. So I don't think it's so much that the education is a requisite as far as going after making a life. What it does mean is the individual's appetites and their mentalities while they are fighting and their ability to look down towards the future, which is something Paula touched on, and making not just a closed-minded assets. Formal education has a way of boxing you in to thinking for institutions and not being able to think outside the box.
Is that what your dad tells you? Think outside the box?
No, he doesn't really tell me things outside the box. Actually, it took him a long time to get to acceptable for me to go hit people. He's coming along. He's coming along.
It sounds familiar when I was a child.
Yeah, you know.
I'm serious because a lot of academic people are very limited in their thinking.
Well,
if I had an MBA, I wouldn't have invested in cellular telephone and made $5 million. He is the academic of academics, right? He works right now for schools in Memphis. He's deputy superintendent, and all he cares about is driving and helping Southern African American youth finding the way and be able to be competitive in the new millennium. And his train of thought is very much secular in that regard. But his applications to be able to bring technology in, making sure good teachers are there, making sure other alternative programs besides just school, basketball, music, and art and such, are available to them. That's what I'm trying to illustrate. That yes, you can have a secular mode in your boxing career, but how you apply and integrate other things into it, moving down the road, are very, very important. And I think we've touched on with Tyson and with Holyfield, clear indicators of people who just completely rely on boxing. Completely rely on boxing.
Yeah, I'm having a lot of fun, man. I haven't said nothing. And this is supposed to be my show, the Jacboxer show.
When you were a kid, what did you do?
I fought, I played soccer, I ran. I've always been very athletic.
Where'd you grow up?
I grew up half here, half in Africa. I was born in Brooklyn, but then I went to Africa.
Where in Africa?
Nigeria.
Did you hold your own there?
Hold it down. At first, they try to intimidate me. You know, when you come from the U.S., they think you're soft. Yeah, why you can't deal with this stuff. You know.
But
so
okay?
after a while, I said, you mess with me. So when I came back, I messed with you. I came back to the U.S. I joined the military.
But how old were you when you went back to Africa?
7 years old.
Oh, 7.
Wow, He's still a baby.
I was still a baby.
Yeah, that's a good age. That's the age you can adapt.
But you know, but it was crazy. It was a crazy experience, you know. I want to do a movie on that already. You know, it's gonna be called Rewind. So you guys need to watch out for that Rewind movie coming down.
What about the philosophy of? I have 4 children, and thank God they all graduated from college. And I knew that I was an athlete. I knew that my life was athletics and nothing more. I was blind towards athletics. But as you become a parent, you begin to see that you failed as an athlete, and I have to put that very loosely, and you tell your kids you want a college degree out of your life, but don't rule out athletics, don't rule out any other alternatives as you are studying in school. So that when you do graduate from school and your major becomes minor and you don't really want to do what you study, you have other alternatives. I also am a retired fire lieutenant, 30 years in the service. And I told her, well, as you go into school, you start taking civil service exams because the job mark with a degree is not going to work. What happens? My 2 older sons graduated from college. They couldn't get jobs. One was a teacher, the other one was in finance. Now the market is bad. And they turned to civil service, and today one is a lieutenant in the police department, the other one was a sergeant. And he says, I'm not going back to school. I mean, I'm not going back to what I studied, man. I got a good life here. So, and they played baseball. One won the college World Series baseball ring, and he was scouted by the pros, Cincinnati Reds, but he said, nah, I want to stay in school. The other one, basketball, he said, nah, I want to stay in school. The only one that lucked out was my 3rd son, who became a school teacher. So he's fine, but he played football, he played basketball, he ran track, he pen relays and all that. My daughter, half athletic, she did run track and all that, but she didn't want to be anything but she now works for one of the top brokerage firms. But what I'm saying to you is that giving the children alternatives instead of my growing up, so I know I got to work like Pop. My Pop was a mechanic in Brooklyn. Maybe y'all this, but I don't like that. I want to do something else. I'm good with my hands. I slap people around, so I might as well make a living out of it. But I never did anything with school. You know, you see what I'm saying? So this is what I'm saying is that here I find that a boxer today, and I hope I'm not monopolizing this, a boxer today is a person who I would admire having 2 careers instead of that one glove career. And as he's emerging in his career as a fighter, he has something to fall back on.
You see, I've always, God knows how many things I've done in my career. I've been from paralegal to yeah, I've done everything.
Did you go to Carl Pearson's school?
No, I went to
That's okay.
see, it's been a long time now.
I'm going to introduce you to Carl Pearson.
But I did paralegal, I did pre-pharmacy. I was actually supposed to be a pharmacist, but when I really started studying it,
medical marijuana?
I know. Well, we can talk about that off camera because when they see a dreadlock.
No, the genie's out of the bottle. It's the oil.
The genie's out of the bottle. Medical or recreational?
That's what you put me on, Adam.
I'm not talking about smoking it. It has to be made into oil, and it cures cancer.
What?
You put it on skin cancer, you tape it up, and 4 days later the skin cancer's gone. It's a big secret.
Paul,
and it's 2 industries.
Do you just, on the Jack Dawkins show, explain the cure for skin cancer through medical marijuana oil?
More than skin cancer. Lung cancer, you can vaporize it, but you've got to take the THC out of it. That's the active ingredient.
The tetrahydrochloride.
Don't get high. Just before you get high, it attacks the cancer cells. It's huge. It's big news. It's the hottest documentary. I'm on the internet a lot. I get a couple thousand.
What company makes this?
That's the problem. That's the problem.
What's the problem?
The guy is in Canada and he had a head injury and he was seeking for relief from his head injury and he took all kinds of drugs that his doctors gave him. And finally somebody gave him a joint. He felt better, but he's like a straight guy, you know, so he doesn't want to be doing something illegal. And in Canada, you can get a prescription. So he told his doctor, give me a prescription. So the doctor said, no, I won't, because it's not so good and they're still studying. He goes, well, how many thousands of years do you need to study? I'm not big on education and PhDs. I've heard PhD say it means permanent head damage. You know, but anyway, he tells his doctor, he said, well, if smoking isn't good for your lungs and all that, how about if I got the oil? Because he's sort of he was in charge of the medical equipment in the hospital. He was a straight guy working for decades in the hospital. So he said, well, yeah, I guess if you got the oil, that would be more medicinal. So what he did was he knew how to do distilling, but he came up with a method for people who don't have all that apparatus, where you just pour the isopropyl alcohol in, you smash up the leaves, and you boil it off. And so you take the leaves out, and what you're left with, after you boil off the solvent, which is dangerous, you get rid of the solvent, you've got oil. And 1 pound will produce 2 ounces of oil, which will last 3 months. 3 months, you just take a grain of, like a rice grain, a couple times a day, and it cures all kinds of things. It's just, it's
see, this might be good for, I don't know. It's medicine.
Alternative medicine
that's what I've been thinking on.
You see, I stopped dealing with the pharmaceutical area because I didn't really believe in all these chemicals that people take. I believe more in herbal stuff.
23% of a bad side effect is death.
My little African experience was like, oh, if I had to really go into it, I want to go get some herbs, the roots.
Yeah.
Those things that you can be sure that they're natural, not, you know, when they mix up all these things. I don't take, when I get a headache, I don't take ampicillin. I hardly take those meds. Why? Because I know they can have some side effects.
Side effects and everything.
So
I agree, but you know,
nobody's ever died from hemp oil.
Well, that's true too.
Yeah, I avoid it as much as I can.
I am no doctor. None of us are doctors.
None of us.
Let's be clear. So we're talking about alternative medicines that have been tried and true through home practice, right? More or less. Now, I'm not against those, but I'm a cold-blooded American. I believe cold-blooded.
What does that mean? What is a cold-blooded American?
Because I'm in the machine. They tell me this thing will fix that. I usually believe them. Now I know more, just as well as the rest of us, that the machine is a profit-generated organism.
Absolutely.
Right. This thing only is worried about making money. Right. So when they tell us to take Absol or take aspirin or Tylenol, these are things that profit-generating. But one thing I do like is that they can be held accountable.
Yeah.
With alternative medicines, it is impossible to hold someone accountable.
You cannot be held accountable.
There's a movie recently called Into the Wild. Throughout the movie, there was a boy who completely went against the machine.
Right.
In the end, he died of misdiagnosing a plant.
All right, I don't want to cut you off. I want to get into some Jacboxer show. A little bit.
Hey, I'm with it. I was following the
I want to make sure that
I want to buy some hemp oil. I want to buy that company.
I'm going to buy me some National Geographic and study more on it.
It should be made in mass because then you can have quality.
I would buy stock.
So I'm going to have a
cure skin cancer. I would buy it.
No, I got legal counsel on this. Carl Pearson started the paralegal, so I'll have you on my show with Carl to say that you studied paralegal and you'll learn that it was the fastest growing profession for 15 years.
Yes.
He told me when I presented the problem, he said, Paula, it sounds like this is a political decision and not a medical decision. So we have to work on it on the level of politics, petitioning, so you can legalize.
The dirty hand of politics always comes in.
That's the camera right there. So anyway, like I said, this is the Jacboxer show. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're tuning in right now, you can call us 212-757-1538.
Can I put it on the character generator, or you can't get it?
You want to do that for me?
Yeah.
Don't lose yourself, though.
Yeah. Then, because then people can.
Thank you so much. So, Thor, tell me about your amateur career. I know you had 34 wins, 1 loss, a couple of knockouts. How did you get into your amateurs?
There's a natural progression for martial arts. I was a diligent martial artist. I trained here in the city. I had a mentor that I looked up to immensely, but in the end, I decided that it wasn't the right word. So, long story short, I challenged him. Didn't go as well as I thought. He wasn't the kind of person that I thought he was in terms of heart. I wanted for him to relinquish the school to one of his other senior black belts. Decided not to. And that really lost a lot of passion that I had for martial arts. So then I started to focus more on my fighting. As you know, martial arts is more encompassing, more than just hitting.
Right.
There's a strong spiritual side to it.
Exactly.
But fighting, on the other hand, you find spirituality through the contact, through the rigor, through the training. And that's how I really began to appreciate boxing. Sean Razor, my trainer, I met him at Kingsway Boxing. Really helped me develop my natural skills for martial arts and make the transition.
Transition to boxing.
Transition into boxing.
Nice, nice. And then you won the New York City Golden Glove twice, right? Can you tell us about those two tournaments?
The first title I won was New York City Novice Super Heavyweight Golden Gloves, 2007, from Kingsway Boxing. Actually, I followed Sean McCline, who was also from Kingsway, and we went in with decent expectations, but not to win. I mean, I got a lot of. One thing when you go into tournaments, I've noticed. First is your preparation, your training, your focus, and your coaching. Very important. The second thing is who you're fighting in what order. If you're fighting the baddest guys out there the first and second day, especially in the national set, it's going to be very, very hard. On the local level, the clubs, month to month, if you have more time in between each fight, but you have to have guys who you can progress with and build your confidence, right? It's all matchmaking. A lot of it is not going out there and fighting last year's champ first. It's going out there fighting a guy similar to you with similar amounts of fights, similar weight, similar experience. And as you progress, you gain momentum. You go into fights more confident, more loose because you went in there and performed the time before.
Nice.
And finishing up in the Garden is the best feeling in the sport. And when you're a novice fighter, there's nothing bigger than winning in the Garden. When you're an open fighter, it feels good. But there's nothing like novice fighting. Novice Golden Gloves in Madison Square Garden is the best you can possibly do. You went out there the first time in the gloves. In your life. You went out there, you had less than 10 fights, you're brand new, and you're fighting really on the heart and fumes, you know? You're putting everything out there, only for 3 minutes. And the pride you feel going out there the first time and winning it can't be replicated. You win it, you go to open class gloves, fine. You know, you're a little bit better, you got more than 10 fights, you fight, you've already picked your sport. But novice gloves really is the best indicator that I feel determines your success in your career path going forward.
How was your national? Tell me about the national championship that you won.
I went to 2 nationals this past year. One was the U.S. Championships, now called the Future Stars. Then we went to the new National Golden Gloves.
Golden Gloves, yeah.
Right? Now, the National Golden Gloves, it's a great experience. We went out there with Joe Higgins, a lot of great fighters. Philip Jackson Benson, who's now on the same promotion as I am. Will Rosinski, who's doing a really good job. And when we went out there in Grand Rapids, Michigan, this was right after Mayweather just handled Hatton.
Ricky Hatton.
And he sponsored the event, which made it cool. We got a little bit extra. Trophies, belts, rings. I mean, it was real good. And we got more.
Floyd
Massager. He did a great
God
job.
Bless him, right?
And throughout the fight, I had 5 strong fighters. I had Wisconsin, Kentucky, moved on to Chicago, which that boy came to fight. He was evangelical. He wanted to pray with me before the fight. I obliged.
He prayed
with me before the fight. And then the last guy we had, Andre Catalan, which is on YouTube, from Compton, Los Angeles. And that boy, he was a little bit tired because he had a really heavy guy the day before. And you tell it took a lot out of him, but he really came to fight. I started out with 2 knockouts with the Wisconsin guy and the Kentucky guy. I felt strong. But as the day goes on, in the 5-day tournament, you really feel it's not it's not just a fight. It's a battle of attrition. How much do you want it? You know, can you cool down during the day, during the weigh-in, and can you get yourself back up 5 days in a row? I mean, it's very, it takes a special kind of person to be able to do it. I think anyone who made it to the finals deserves significant recognition.
What was it like training out of Joe Frazier's gym in Philly?
Best gym experience that I've had. I love Gleason's Boxing where I am now. Bruce Silverglade does a very good job. It's the oldest gym in the country, and it's produced more champions than any other gym in the world. And I have a strong sort of pride with it. But what you don't have there is you don't have the intimate relationships like I have now with you three. Right? I have that when you go to Joe Frazier's, formerly Joe Frazier's, they closed, unfortunately. But you have a world champion, the man who beat Ali. I mean, come on now. The man who knocked out Ali with a left hook walks in and out of the gym, and he critiques you, and you feel a sense of history. And Sub Marvis is a lot more hands-on. And he really gave me a
Marvis is a trainer?
Marvis is a trainer.
He's a trainer. Oh,
and,
okay.
He's only lost to Tyson, but you can tell he is a heavy hitter, just like his pop. Real strong guy. And he really taught me a lot about generating energy from very short distances, which is
Generating energy
very short distances.
Wow.
Very important stuff to do. A very small space between you and your opponent. Now, how do you get the most bang for your buck? This is what they taught me how to do. Right, and
it's part of the stamina, and who's going to be stronger as the rounds go on, and who's going to have the ability to be able to fight at a consistency, as opposed to, oh man, round 8 and I can't hardly lift my left hand or my right hand, and you pity patty. While meantime he's started in the first round. That's the difference, and that's basically what that training is all about.
Now, tell me about your professional debut. How would you describe that first professional fight?
Dangerous. Dangerous. Dangerous.
Let me tell you about my first pro fight. Saratoga, New York. 4 rounds. You guys can make more money than I do now.
What year was this?
52, 53, 54. 4 rounds, $50. Man, that was a lot of money, man, when I hit the jackpot, man. I couldn't sleep the night before. I couldn't think. I ate. I was nervous. And
where were you?
47.
Okay.
I walk in, and they're calling, and I can't sit still in the dressing room. I'm heebie-jeebies. And I'm telling you, they call, okay, about 4. I'm just, and I don't know how I won that fight.
You had to do 4 to get $50?
Yeah, four rounds. That was $50, man. St. Nicholas Arena, I don't know if you remember, that one was $75 for 4 rounds. But and how I won the fight, I think it had to be nervous energy, because the guy hit me in the first round with a right hand shot. Started to close my left eye. I could only see with one hand. I mean, with one eye, I had a sort of they call that refrigerator myself, so I could see him square. And I was a pretty good banger with left hooks, man. So I caught him with a left hook and I dropped him in the 4th round. And the referee didn't see that he could get up, and so he waved him off. But man, I was like, how did I do this? And I was so nervous. So you can imagine. So now when he says it was murder, it was dangerous. Well, is that first? I'm a pro. Oh my God!
I didn't have the heebie-jeebies actually. Adam Cohn was there. After a while, how many amateur fights did you have?
I had 32 and won 30 and lost 2 by closest.
So about 60.
About
60. Yeah, I didn't have that heebie-jeebies. Maybe it was because I knew that I had done everything possible that could be done for a 4-round fight. Maybe that I knew that I had a promoter who was looking out for my best interest. Maybe I knew that. Well, meaning that I knew who I was fighting. He didn't have. There's to be no 60 amateur fights. I knew that. I knew the guy, and I knew the guy had a losing record. He had 7 fights. Joseph Rapoport was his name.
So he
from
kind of
Myrtle
matched
Beach.
you well.
No, he didn't match
No,
me.
no,
He didn't
no.
match me well. No. As terms in boxing, there is different pedigrees of fighters, right? And if your pedigree is not based upon your character, it's not based upon how many rounds you did in the how many rounds you did in the gym. It's not based upon who your trainer is. It's based upon your accomplishments. That's the only thing that is universal. If you want a national title, then you're a national champion. If you want local Golden Gloves, you want local Golden Gloves. He had no accomplishments. Right. He, he's a good guy. He's a DJ, and he's clearly a professional. You cannot ever take away the courage it takes just to physically go through the preliminary bouts and get into the ring in the first place, and well knowing the other person who's coming in there has only been thinking about beating you up for the last 2 weeks. Right. There's a certain amount of courage that you have to acknowledge.
Yeah.
But if you don't have that pedigree, if you don't have the accomplishments before you, you're going in there a step below the other person. And as you go into boxing and spend more time around it, you realize that you are arranged certain ways depending upon who's in your corner. If you have a good promoter, if you have good people behind you, and you have a good ticket fan base. These will always get you the guy who doesn't have the same accomplishments that you do, which gives you a mental edge and gives you the ability to relax a little bit more to fight and save your energy.
Wow, I'm getting excited. Ladies and gentlemen at home, if you're just tuning in, like I said, I have heavyweight contender Thor Hammer. I got Dusty, I got Paula, and Keisha is about to come on. January 17th.
Biloxi, Mississippi.
Biloxi, Mississippi.
First HBO card. It's on the Berto Collazo fight card.
Louis Collazo
fight card. It's Berto's first title defense, so we're very excited about it, all of us in the Bellows camp. My partner in crime, Philip Jackson Benson, is going to make his second fight appearance on the HBO card, which is going to be great. He just signed with DeBella. Looking forward to a lot. I have a lot of great people behind me. UAS shoes, upper echelon shoes have definitely come out and supported. Same with Peg Leg gear. I'm having a lot of good support from my friends. We look to make a good splash on this fight.
Into the Jacboxer show.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming to the Jacboxer show.
Nice to be here.
Thank you.